the Bush twins' relationship to the highest
What's the
office
matter?
in the land
Nothing.
goes back 20 years.
You were telling me about
Among the tidbits, if you
about,
ever need a hug, go find
your
Gramps.
mother.
If you want to talk football,
What are you doing?
look for Buddy.
Hmm?
And if you just need a smile,
Nothing.
or smiling,
Who's
the
your
White
cooking?
House
I know, I
ushers.
believe
They are the White House butlers, who, you know, the girls will see every day. And that will
What were
be
we
people
talking
that,
about?
they probably will grow
We're
pretty
talking
close.
about
Not since John and Caroline Kennedy has America been so seemingly fascinated
grandpa.
by first children.
The White House is a blur. It is
Grandpa McIntyre. That was my grandpa.
and it's the best part of their life.
Why Jenna and
I
Barbara
never
Bush
met
are
him.
advising young
He was
Sasha
a
and
sweetheart.
Leah to
Is
go
that
to
right?
anything
He
and
was
everything
a
he possibly
sweetheart.
can.
He was always
The Bush twins
kissing
know
me.
all the
Really?
highs and lows of life
Kissing me,
in
and
the
he had a
spotlight.
mustache.
They were once known
And
for partying
sometimes it
and ditching the
kind of
Secret Service.
When you get caught
Would
sort
make
of
my
doing
mother
things
so
and the press sort of
furious.
attacks you for it,
And
they
he'd
learn.
take me
And
out
it's
in the
better to
morning
get
at
advice from
5:30
people
in the
who lived
morning
through it, gone
to-
through it, and learned
and
and
he'd
realized,
stand
okay,
up
maybe
on a
we
little
shouldn't do
stool
that.
there
Which brings
while
Jenna
he
and
milked the
Barbara Bush
cows.
to this. Our dad, like yours, is a man of great integrity and love, not the sketchiness.
You know, the McIntyres were, you know, pretty honorable people out there. My mother, of course, she had been an orphan and didn't get down too well. So my Aunt Tilly told me.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Aunt Tilly and Grandma didn't really have the best relationship, did they?
They couldn't live without each other.
Is that right?
Every other week they had to see each other and then they'd fight. And then one would go home. And the next week another one would come over. It was the way it was. And John was a brother. You met him when you were a little girl at the Putnam Hill.
Grandma's brother?
Grandma had a brother, John McIntyre.
I never met him. I don't
And he
remember.
lived at Cumberland. And he raised canaries. That I remember.
For the mines?
Huh?
For the mines? Canaries to put down in the mines?
Oh, no.
Just canaries. Grandma always had a canary.
That's, yeah.
One day we went in and it was on the bottom of the cage, both feet up in the air.
Okay. All right, so.
They were real pretty songs.
What did I tell you? Oh, my grandmothers, they had a beautiful home. Country home. A big long house, gray. And I don't know whether you want to know it or not.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful farm, laid out pretty, and everything had fences, and it was just really nice. And my grandpa was kind of a carpenter because he built a lot of things. And the house was always pretty because I always liked to go there because it was so nice. And my grandmother had just died, and everything was nice. Nothing like we had at home, barren, and there's always, I remember it looked like an oriental rug in the living room, and she always had a great big, long table behind the coffee table, behind the couch.
Yeah.
And everything was just pretty. And,
What
yeah,
did
she had a winding stairway.
Really?
I used to slide down it.
Huh.
At the top of the step was a great big closet for clothes. It was a nice home.
Grandma always had nice clothes in the pictures that I saw. Where did she get them? Did she go out and buy clothes? And
You know how she got them? My dad was stingy as hell. She'd have to lay stuff away, $2 a week.
Really?
Yeah. And he sent, whenever he got money, he always had money, but he sent it to his dad. Because he didn't have any income. He had an 86-acre farm. And there's no income on it. Only sheep. So
Did he have crops?
he didn't raise anything that I ever knew of.
Grandma always had a garden.
Yeah. Oh, he had a garden, a big garden. He'd have, I remember the garden. And he'd have black raspberries and
Potatoes.
hmm?
Potatoes.
And stribs and what?
Potatoes.
Oh, yeah. And he had sweet cherry trees. Mm. And my grandpa was so agile, he would go climb up those big cherry trees and shake them. And he'd put down a sheet, and the berries, cherries would fall on the sheets.
Is that right?
And we'd take them home in bushel baskets. That I remember. And I was 13 because I was the only driver.
Really?
I could just
You were allowed to drive?
Huh?
You were allowed to, well, there were nobody to stop you.
No, nobody stopped me.
Who was the president?
I have no idea. I was 13.
So that had been 1926?
Get a pencil.
Well, you were born 1913, so it'd be 26.
How old was I?
You said you were 13 when you were driving?
Yeah, I was driving us. My dad called up and said to come down and get me at the factory because he had a lump of, little kindling. They call it kindling wood for the fireplace. And we just got an Overland touring car. And first time in my life I ever drove. And I was up on the sidewalks at Spangler Drive. I can remember. God, went clear out to the fair, clear out to the, what do you call it?
Fairgrounds?
No, clear out to the, where you make the glassware.
Glass house.
Glass house. Yep. That was my first venture with.
It was a stick shift too. It wasn't automatic. You didn't have an automatic. Yeah.
And then you got out, you know how you started it?
How?
You had to pull down a spark. The spark was right behind the wheel, and you put so far down, and you put too much of spark on it, you'd land on your butt. Because you'd have to wind it up in front.
In front, you had to crank it?
Huh?
You
I had
cranked
to
it?
crank it. I sure did.
It tossed you backwards?
And my dad never, as smart as he was, he never learned to drive.
That's like my husband, Ian. He can't drive too well.
He never did learn to drive. And I would take him out to the fairgrounds. Couldn't sink it in him.
He didn't want to.
Hmm?
He didn't want to.
Evidently. Because every time he'd go to Grandpa's, I'd have to take him. You know, I hated that trip every Sunday. When I wanted to do things.
Well, at least Aunt Tilly knew how to drive.
Until I never.
I know.
She never gave me a dime.
Is that right?
Never give me a dime for gas or anything.
Well, did you ever tell her you wanted some money?
Never. And there was a dress, I remember it was green. And it was two-piece. And I wanted it so bad. So, I finally got $7.50 out of Aunt Tilly to buy the dress.
$7.50.
$7.50. I don't know how long it took me, but I finally got the
Where
dress.
did you wear it?
I have no idea.
I remember selling cherries and buying a dress down at the some dress shop down on Main Street.
You did?
I sold about $10 worth of cherries off the cherry tree.
Next door on Pine Street.
Went up and down the street selling cherry
Sour
boxes.
cherry. Oh,
Sour cherry.
Grandpa has sweet cherries.
This is wrap for cherry pies.
Huh?
The sour ones used for cherry pies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that dress was $12. It was real pretty. It was yellow and it had a bolero top.
Which one?
Yellow.
Yours?
Yeah. And Daddy went with me to buy it.
Your father?
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why.
He did. Yeah, she sure did. Oh, there's the phone. Hello? I was just talking about you. Well, I was just saying that, we're saying that Mother was saying that her grandpa couldn't drive, and I said, neither can you. Yeah. Yeah? No, it didn't touch a thing. No. Are you, okay. Okay, well, I'm just hearing stories about Mother growing up in High Hill.
I didn't grow up in High. Don't say
Never
that.
saw it. Never saw it. Okay. Bye.
Will you get me some water before
Yeah.
you sit down? What did Ian want?
He was looking for some manual on how to fix his outboard motor, which is a piece of junk.
I had to tell him that.
Here you are.
Oh, thanks.
It's too full?
No.
Are you sleepy?
Not yet. I will be. What was I telling you?
You're telling me about you hated to drive Tilly around and buy a green dress.
She never gave me a dime for gas for nothing.
May wasn't too bad, was she?
Who?
May.
She was a
That
drug.
damn.
Oh.
You know, she always used to read the Sunday paper, funnies to me.
I know she's in the couch. You'd be looking across the street at this master's. Over that way.
That's right. And you know what? To this day, I love the smell of a newspaper. It reminds me of Aunt May, Annie May, and reading the comics.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
She was good at that, wasn't she?
Uh-huh. She was good with kids. She used to take us swimming.
That's all it's a damned old bitch was. What's the matter?
That's funny.
We had a big fight on Pine Street.
You did?
We were standing around the dining room table, and we was fighting. Not fight, arguing. And she says, and my brother could have married a nice Jewish girl.
To you?
Mm-hmm. Years ago.
Well, you should have said, yeah, you got lucky. You married me.
It's true, because he didn't have a dime.
Would you like something salty?
No, I'm fine.
You know who I don't remember is Daddy's mother. I don't remember her very well.
Oh, forget. She's a witch.
You should write a book, Mother.
Huh?
You should write a book. I remember her picking
Yes.
flowers next door at the Thompson's house.
I dread it. She wasn't right, you know. And she'd come down here on the bus free.
Does she have a
Hmm?
does she have a senior citizen's pass or what?
I don't know what the hell she had. The hell, I imagine. Anyway, she'd come down here and she would be. Did you ever see the house they lived in?
Cherry Street?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They'd bring her down here. Ethel wouldn't have her because it would disgrace her children. And she came down here in rags. Rags, I'm telling you, rags.
She didn't care much for me, I remember.
She didn't like me either. She and May would sit in the living room talking Yiddish, and I'd be in the kitchen cooking for the damn bitches.
Well, that should have been different.
Hmm?
That should have been different.
Yeah. So, what was we discussing besides?
Driving a car.
I told you about my dad called, said to come down to the factory and get him. Never drove a car in my life. We had an Overland touring car, and my dad had paid $50 for it. And I backed that out. Of course, there wasn't any cars. The streets wasn't paved, so I went the back way down Spangler Drive, picked up my dad.
And you were 13?
13. I drove since I was 13. Never had a wreck. Yes. And I could never teach my dad to drive. And he was smart. But he could. Well, he'd wash his feet. And that's... Will you give me a pain pill?
Why, what hurts?
Oh, my hip is killing me.
Really?
Yes. It's been hurting for about an hour, and I thought I could take it without.
Here you
Okay.
got it?
Okay. Is that half of one?
Yeah, it's half on. That's what she told me to give you.
Okay.
Got it?
Mhm. Okay. Well, you want to know? My dad worked at the factory, and he was a foreman at the glass house, and he wanted to move back to the farm. He wanted, I was a little girl, I don't remember much about it, but he wanted to move back to the farm with Grandpa. And Harley didn't want to go, because Harley had a city life, so I remember a lot of fights and arguments going on there.
So he didn't go.
Mm-mm.
He never got married, did he, Harley?
He got married twice.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have any kids, though.
No.
He was mean to you.
Yes, he was. I remember him twisting my thumb back. So he was a mean. I didn't care about him at all. No. Mm-mm. But Grandpa and they must have been real nice people. They had all kind of beautiful paintings. I'd like to have had them. You know, of runaway horses, and I was scared to go in that bedroom to sleep.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Because of the paintings?
Because of that scene. There's a big, great big picture. I bet the frame would be worth a fortune. And it had like runaway horses, and the lightning was flashing.
Ah.
and it was in a bed with feather beds.
Oh, yeah?
And in front, it was a beautiful old home. In front was two huge evergreen trees. And around it was dirt and flowers. And my mother, I suppose my grandma, had placed all these rocks all the way around the tree. It was beautiful. And in the summer, we used to sit there because there wasn't any chairs to sit on. And in front of that was the big garden next to the road. And it had everything in it, blackberries and everything. And all around it, everything was food. Sweet cherry trees and
Is that right?
peaches, and they really had a nice home. And of course, my grandmother died, and I must have been 6. And they had really a nice home, beautiful. And I always hated to leave because our home was so dumpy and nothing in it.
You know, when I used to visit Grandma on Owens Hill, I loved going there.
Boy,
Because it was just because of the garden and the barn and the house and the feather bed and the coal stove.
you'd have liked it out of my grandma's house. You'd
Well,
have loved that.
Grandma, that feather bed was good for about 1 minute until you sank to the bottom. And then it was hard.
My mother they used to save turkey feathers, and they'd take them off of the quill.
Yeah,
Boy, that would be comfort.
I bet. That feather bed didn't last too long for Aunt Tilly. She went right to the bottom.
And the house was a beautiful old home.
Is that right?
Just very plain, like New England,
Mm-hmm.
and it had a great big wide stairway and a winding stairway that came down. I used to slide down it.
Is that right?
Mhm. And down at the end of the stairway was my mother had she had a closet down there for clothes,
Yeah.
and at the top was for hats, and in the middle of the centered hall was a big chase lounge.
Sounds pretty.
It was a beautiful home, and my grandmother must have had a real good taste.
What happened to her? Did she get sick?
She died from a heart attack.
Really?
She was young, and A.C. McIntyre told me, before we had the store on Main, that for one whole year, he walked to that cemetery, sleet, snow, whatever. He walked it to the cemetery and back.
Really?
My grandfather. Mm-hmm. And you could see it was a loving home because it was really nice. And they had everything going for them. Everything. They had, I remember, a great big grape arbor. One was white grapes and one was blue. And, oh, God. And sweet cherry trees. And my dad used to get up in them and shake them. And he'd shake them down on a sheet. And we'd bring them home, and my mother would can them and make peach jam, cherry.
Is that where you used to get those those nuts?
Hickory nuts.
Hickory nuts.
Mm-hmm. I got a big hickory nut tree right here.
Is that
The
right?
damn squirrel get it before I do.
Yeah, and no way to keep the squirrels away, I guess.
No, I don't think so, unless you shoot them. And it's against the law.
What is the predator of a squirrel? It must be a coyote or
Beg
something.
pardon?
What does a squirrel have to worry about? Oh, hawks?
I don't
Hawks
know.
probably get
Mostly
squirrels.
people. They eat them. That's why my grandpa used to cook them all the time.
How would he make them? There wouldn't be much there.
You know, if you
Squirrel, they'd have squirrel nuggets.
No, I remember eating fried squirrel.
Really?
Our grandpa's, and it must have been pretty good. Not in the, whether it was chicken or whatever.
Fried squirrel. Ugh. That'd be like a rodent, wouldn't it?
Why? Squirrels don't eat anything as
Oh.
garbage. Like
I'm not so sure about that. You go to these parks, they'll eat anything they can find. The squirrels are all over the parks. And I had to run away from a squirrel once.
Really?
I went in the parking lot of the supermarket, and right next to it there was a big wall, and there was a squirrel. And it came up to me, and I thought, I don't want him to nip my ankle, because they might have rabies. So I kind of backed away from it, and it started chasing me across the parking lot of the supermarket.
Really?
Yeah. Thought I had food or something, and people saw it and were laughing at me. The squirrels eat still. I bet if you threw scraps out here, they'd eat them.
Well, I'm sure they do. Well, I've seen them. Throw them out the back bedroom window and then,
They're a rodent.
I know.
In Asia, people eat cats and dogs and everything.
I know. This book was telling, or on TV was telling about, you walk in this restaurant in Japan and you pick out the dog or cat you want.
I know. Isn't that awful? It's a good thing that cat you have isn't around. They probably pick him out. He looks like the fattest one.
I think he's just all fur or fluff.
I think he's fat, too. Where is he?
He don't come around here only in the mornings.
Really? Where do you think he goes in the afternoon?
I have no idea. I imagine he's hunting for food.
Too bad he's not hunting for squirrels. He'd probably eat one if he got it. It's just a little too big for him, huh?
Yeah, I don't think he could tackle that. I don't know. When I was at Grandpa's, and I go out there every summer, and my mother hated it because she had to leave Harley. Yes.
So what Harley managed all right on his own, I guess.
Beg pardon?
He managed all right on his own, Harley.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have any. He was a drunk and a smoker, and my dad got him out of jail twice for driving while drunk. And
Really? They had those laws back then?
he sure did.
Really?
And my mother she lived on the hill, and she just was screaming and crying on because he was in jail. And my dad went down to the city loan and borrowed money to get my brother out of jail.
For no kidding, for drink, I didn't think that I thought they didn't do anything to you.
Beg pardon?
I didn't know that the cops even cared if you drove and while you were
Well, I
drinking.
don't know. My brother was arrested twice for driving while drunk. That I know. What else you want to know about the good or the bad?
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Remember that story Daddy used to tell about how he was sitting on the outside of the car that was driving along and it had an accident, and he just switched seats with the other guy on the outside, and the guy
And the
on
what?
he switched seats with the guy on the outside, and then after the accident, the guy that was in his seat died.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You don't remember that story?
No.
Maybe before he even knew you. He was doing one of those rum runs where he brought booze from somewhere, like a moonshiner.
Oh, yeah. They, Jaime Friedman. They're down on 4th Street, and they had in the Clarendon Hotel, and they made liquor in the bathtub, and put it in little pint jars.
Yeah.
And that's when they was building the Ohio Power Plant, and they furnished the liquor to the guys at the Ohio Power Plant.
Huh.
That I know. That was just before I met Ed. And then Jaime, do you remember Jaime?
Yeah.
Jaime was taking a load of scotch or whatever it was down to the Ohio Power Plant, and that's when that road was all mud. And they had this liquor stashed everywhere in his car, in the body of it.
Yeah.
And the cops came down and felt sorry for him, pushed him out, and it was also full of liquor.
Oh.
And then they went down, I don't know how that happened, but anyway, they arrested Jaime, and Jaime hated closures, and he, I was going to tell you.
So he arrested Jaime, and he
Huh?
didn't like being locked up.
Oh yeah, and they went to Michigan to get gin or something, I don't know, and they locked Jaime up, and for a week, and he about flipped. He about lost his mind.
Did Daddy get him out?
Mm-hmm.
Why did he wait a week?
I have no idea. Maybe to get the money together. I don't know.
And got locked up in Zanesville?
No, Michigan.
In Michigan. Oh.
Yeah.
Jaime had a store, didn't he?
Who?
Jaime had a store, or he worked in a jewelry store?
He was a ace salesman of Columbus, Ohio, at one time.
What did he sell?
Jewelry.
He had the store right across the street. Was that Jaime across the street?
No, that was Al Say.
Al Say.
Al
That's
Say
right.
used to send up $5 balloons.
Yeah, I know.
Then he got tired of it.
I didn't do it that much.
Huh?
I didn't do it that much. I sent up a couple.
You did it enough that he didn't like it.
I had an early start, didn't I?
God.
I had on that, sent up a helium balloon with a tag on it. It says, if you find this, you get $5 discount at Al Say Jewelers. And then people used to come in with those.
And he did too.
He gave
it away a
discounts?
few times.
And then I used to get an envelope and fill it full of paper. And then write on the outside, take this money and pay the rent, pay the electric bill, pay the gas bill, and then I'd put it and watch somebody kick it. They'd pick it up, read it, put it in their hip pocket, and take off.
I remember when you used to put it on Pine Street,
Put what on Pine Street?
an envelope, and people stopped.
That was in front of the store. That was in front of the store.
What is it?
That was in front of the store.
Okay. Okay. Today you would get arrested
Why? For what?
doing all these crazy things.
That's not bad.
It's not good either.
Only if I leave my fingerprints behind.
Uh-huh.
We would get in trouble for taking all the city signs and putting them in front of,
My house.
and that wasn't your house. Then we took all the signs and everything we could find was that loose around the city and put it in front of somebody's house.
You put it in front of my house one Sunday,
It wasn't me. No, it was somebody else that did that.
and somebody loaded my front yard up with newspapers. And that was you.
No, I put them in front of somebody else's house and they returned them.
Okay.
Probably John did that.
Mm-hmm. The last I saw John, I bet he weighed over 200.
Really? 200 pounds?
I'll bet he does. I saw him at somewhere, a parade or something.
A parade? In Zanesville?
Uh-huh.
A
And
parade?
they said that, oh, Jean and June, wait a minute, can't think of her name. Jean, we could run around together, and she just died 2 years. All my friends have died, but this one, she lived out there. What's her name? She owned all that land, but anyway, she was telling me how they this out off of Creamery Road, off of Route 60 North, and John would beat up his wife. Twice he got arrested and put him in jail.
Is he still married to the same woman?
I have no idea. Do I smell funny?
You smell like lilies of the valley.
Mhm.
I don't smell it. It smells normal. I don't smell anything different. What's wrong? You
I'm
tired?
just smelling.
I don't smell a thing, Mother. You just got all washed up.
That's what my mother would sing.
What?
I go to the valley alone while the dew is still on the roses.
Oh, that's depressing.
Hmm?
That's depressing.
And the voice I hear falling on my ear, I don't know.
She sing? Grandma sing?
She had a beautiful voice.
Never heard her sing.
My mother had a beautiful voice. She really did, and I couldn't carry a tune in the bucket.
You want to get it?
No.
Hello? Hello? Oh, hi, David. She's right here. Would you like to talk to her? Hold on, David.
Okay, okay. Hi, David. I'll be okay. I'm just not with it today. I'm kind of weak, but I'll be okay. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. I just took a pain pill, so that'll help it. How are you? Oh, really? The sun's shining here all day, but it's very cold. So, okay. My mother, yeah, she's right here at the window watching them. Wait a minute. That's your son.
No. Hi, David. Thursday. How's everything? Eddie went out for a while to get through some errands, and I'm just sitting here with Mother. She's talking about the good old days. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Really? What was his name? Mother probably would know him. I mean, the family, maybe.
Who?
Oh. That's what Ian said. We'll be watching you on Monday, unless something else preempts it. Oh, now come on, David. You got to say you like him. You got to admit he's pretty good. Well, give him a chance. I think he's doing. I think so far he gets an A+. I think. We'll have to talk about this later. No, Mother's pretty much housebound till she gets better. Besides that, it's yeah, well, it's 0 outside. Yeah, it's pretty cold. How are the kids? Is that their last? Okay, well, maybe I'll get to see one. Give him a call. He's puttering around, going to Costco and working around the house. Okay. All right. Well, I'll give you a call later. Okay. Bye.
What's with David?
David's taking his kids to basketball practice, and it's rainy there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So what are we talking about?
High Hill. I don't know. It was interesting. What was it?
I don't know. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Do you have to go to the bathroom?
Haven't? I am when you get back.
Okay, I'm going to go. Do you want anything to eat?
No.